Hi there, and welcome to the October edition of our Redland District Angling Association video feedback. We'll have the usual items this month. We'll be looking back at some of the lovely fish that have been caught over the month in Redland District waters and in waters around Reading. We'll be hearing what Del and Jim and the Fisheries team have been up to, and we'll of course be looking at prospects for the coming few weeks. So let's get on with it. Well, Del, Fisheries report. We're well into the autumn now. What have we got planned? I know you were talking about starting the Friday Club.
Yes, yeah. It's that time of the year again. So people are sort of looking to do stuff around the fisheries, and it's a lot easier, obviously, in this time of the year. So 18th of November, 10 o'clock, down the up, get yourself a free bake and roll and a cup of tea, and roll your sleeves up.
Smashing. Okay, well, we'll put the announcements out on our Facebook page as usual, but it'd be good to see the usual crew back again. They do some good work, and this is the time of year we do it. So we run the Friday Club really right up until sort of springtime, don't we?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you know, we can legitimately sort of chop around stuff and what have you till about the end of March. Once you get into March, and you're into bird nesting season, so you know, chopping stuff around rubs people up the wrong way and ain't too clever for the birds. So you know, we do it all through the winter months.
And below the water, you've been doing some work with this National Water Quality Monitoring Network. I see that you and Jim have been out testing water quality.
Yeah. I mean, it's still early days, so we can't sort of draw too many conclusions. It's all part of the Angling Trust initiative, sort of to get as many people involved in testing water quality as they possibly can. We do a couple of parameters. We do nitrates, we do phosphate levels, we do temperature, we do conductivity, which is essentially sort of our dirty water. In terms of turbidity. And yeah, I mean, it does make some interesting reading. We've done 2 lots so far, and it does make some interesting reading already.
And this is on the Kennet, yeah?
Yeah, just on the Kennet for the time being. We may sort of push it out to the Loddon at some point, but there's lots of other clubs on the Loddon that do things. There's not so many on the Kennet because we basically control so much of it. It's our responsibility. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll build a bigger picture up going forwards, and it'll just give us a little bit more ammunition sort of to start firing back at people if things aren't quite right.
That's good to hear. I noticed you also had a visit from Sparsholt. The fishery management students came down to see you again. What did you think of that lot?
Yeah. I mean, it's an annual thing. We get some first year students, and it's part of their sort of coursework. They're tasked with visiting 3 different sorts of fisheries, and then comparing, you know, how people, their management techniques and all that. And it's always a good fun day. You know, we don't beat about the bush. We take the mickey out of them, and they take the mickey out of us. And you know, it's a good day, and it's good to see, you know, young lads interested in sort of trying to make a career of it. So yeah, it's a good day.
Well, didn't you get our Jim from Sparsholt originally?
We did indeed, yes.
They're not all bad.
No, they're not. They're not all bad. So you know, it's a good thing, and it's a good tie to have with Sparsholt anyway, because it's another sort of avenue for me to sort of get a little bit of expertise if I need to, you know.
Right, absolutely. I see the coaching programme has now wound down, although they did some very successful sessions, and we'll see that when we look at the pictures a bit later on Callows and Wilmots. But I understand from Gordy and Paul and the other coaches that it's been a pretty successful year, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, look, if we introduce one angler to fishing, it's a good year. But we've done 145, or I should say we. I mean, that's the royal we.
They have.
They have, yeah, exactly. I don't have a great deal to do with it. I just provide the facilities. But yeah, I mean, they've done 10 sessions. 145 kids have gone through the system, if you like.
Fantastic.
You know, if we keep 10% of that, then that's a bonus, you know. And it's just a feel-good thing as well.
Well, it's also the advantage of having bespoke junior pools like Callows, and then obviously for the more experienced kids, they can catch bigger fish in Wilmots. And it seems like we've got a really nice mix, because the feedback that we've been having from our coaching sessions, from the parents and the kids, has really been first rate, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's exactly what I intended to do when I first sort of had this idea of Wilmots and Callows and everything like that. It's exactly how it is. You know, you turn up on a Saturday morning, get a bacon roll, cup of tea, mum can use a half decent toilet, and we can introduce kids into fishing, and that's what it's all about. It's a chicken and egg. You know, you've got to have the chicken before you can lay the egg, and that's what we're doing now. We're laying eggs.
I should make it clear our toilet facilities are available for dads as well. But, I'll take your point. We were very pleased to have our colleagues down from South Cerney Angling Club the other week. South Cerney, as you know, control an awful lot of water around the Upper Thames and around the Swindon and Cotswold Water Park, and they're a similar club to us really. They've got about sort of 1,500 members. They've got a full-time fishery officer, Dan, and it was good. Good to have him down so he can see what we're doing, and of course we go and visit them, and I'm sure they do one or two things, and we can nick ideas from them.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean that's what it's all about. It's about sharing knowledge. You know, there's a hell of a lot of things. I mean, from me personally, it's nice to hear somebody else having the same problems I'm having, and I'm sure he has the same thoughts. But yeah, it's a good way of sharing sort of information and not making the mistakes that, you know, they won't make the mistakes we've made, and vice versa. Yeah. You know, so yeah, it's a good thing.
And the other bit that we'll announce it more formally, but we're going to have a tie-up with South Cerney. They've got some lovely waters, and they're going to be coming into the exchange book system. So as from next year, Redland District members will be able to get 4 exchange books with the South Cerney Angling Club. Jim and I drove up there the other day. I mean, it's literally 40 minutes. Up the 419, and you're right on some of the prime fishing on the Upper Thames, as well as some really nice lake fishing as well. So another way of good cross-fertilisation between the two clubs.
Yeah, and I mean, on the face of it, it sort of sounds a long way away, but it's no further than Froxfield, or, you know, certainly places like Northmoor. You know, so, you know,
closer.
Have a day up there, courtesy of South Cerney, and you know, a change is as good as the rest.
I think so. Great. Training. We don't often talk about training, but obviously we've got volunteers. We've got people that participate in the Friday Club, the working parties. I understood you sent Jim on a course the other day.
Yes, we did.
What prompted that?
Well, I got an email from ARC, essentially Action for the River Kennet. Right. They do a few workshops, in-stream sort of workshops on stuff. And we were both invited, but to be fair, woody debris is... I've been doing woody debris for years.
Well, you're a bit old for that now, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be doing that. That's what Jim's here for. So yeah, Jim went on the course. Had some guys from the Wild Trout Trust sort of leading the way, showing them different techniques and whatever. And, you know, while some of it can't be applied to sort of deeper reaches like, you know, we have to do... There's techniques that Jim learnt that I haven't sort of done. So, you know, between us, I think we'll have that pretty much covered now. So, yeah, he had a good day from what I can gather, and he come back with all his fingers and toes. So, you know, happy days.
And for those that don't know the technical term, woody debris is really putting in flow deflectors, creating habitat for fish. And just creating a better environment for the river as a whole.
I mean, essentially what you're doing is you're manipulating the flow. So what you can do is you can tighten up an over wide piece of river, for instance, and allow the river to naturally wash gravels, as well as, you know, all the other bits and pieces, like a bit of shelter for juveniles. It creates a back eddy that they can sit in. It's, you know, it's a great thing. I mean, how we've come on in the last 20 years. You know, 20 years ago, the EA were going through taking everything out of the rivers, and now
putting it back.
Now we're putting it back. But there you are. Who knows what the next 20 years is going to bring?
Well, I always remember, you'll probably remember him, Don Martin used to work for the agency around there. He put woody debris in on the upper Blackwater, and they came along 2 years later and did fish sampling surveys, did some electrofishing, and the highest biomass of fish were around the woody debris structures that were put in. So, you know, it can be a real fish magnet.
Yeah, always is. I mean, certainly when the EA do their electrofishing surveys, whatever, which they're doing next week, by the way, it's always the snaggier areas. And so, you know, the more woody debris we can get in, the better.
Excellent. Couple of bits of routine maintenance and an announcement. So you and Jim have been doing a bit of trimming, keeping the swims clear, but have you still, with the low water, had to keep the pumps running?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Although things are starting to sort of move in a positive direction now. But yeah, 2 weeks ago we were pumping still, but things seem to be turning around a little bit now. I mean, tonight coming over here, I mean, it was torrential. So hopefully we can put the pumps away now and not look at them again until, you know, next summer. There's
only so much water we can pump out of Flint and stick into Callows.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that.
And lastly, Moatlands Track. I understand there's an announcement you need to make there.
Yes, yeah. Moatlands Track will be shut until late November. Sustrans, people that were on the rivers 20 years ago will know that they went through and put cycle paths all the way through. Well, they're redoing a lot of those, and they're putting a new track up from basically the cottages down at the bottom of where Moatlands is, at the bottom of the track, and they're going all the way through to Hisses Bridge, and that will take them about 3 weeks. It's going to be a tarmac sort of track going up through there. So unfortunately, we won't be able to access it via cars or walking. So if anyone wants to fish Moatlands or Calcutt, they're either going to have to come in through the Cunning Man sort of section downstream, or up from Theale and walk down. It's a bit of a pain, but long term we're gonna get a decent track out of it.
I mean, it is actually possible to access the middle of our Calcutt section by coming through the Lydia Park.
You
need to look on the map.
I was going to say, I couldn't even tell you how to go that way, but I know it is possible.
Yeah.
But I've certainly never been through there, so I don't get directions off of me, for God's sake.
But at the end of the day, we're going to have a better track, and people are always complaining about that track. So it's it's a short-term pain for a long-term gain.
That's really, exactly. And with the work that we're doing up at Moatlands, and will be continuing to do at Moatlands, this will just add to it. So hopefully come the spring, when everyone's going to get up there tench fishing, they'll see a marked difference in what it was last year.
Yeah, well, Moatlands is my number one tip for a specimen tench next year.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Del. That's fabulous. Well, Dale, that's quite a gallery of fish for this time of year, is it? I wouldn't normally expect to see such fish in October, but there you go. Let's start off with the barbel. I mean, sublime to ridiculous, really. At the bottom end of the scale, Terry Burks is in there with a £3 barbel. It is good to see barbel that size in the river,
I mean, from a fisheries manager's point of view, river keeper's point of view, you want to see the small ones. So, while I love the big ones and I love that people got big smiles on their face, I want to see the small ones. And, that's great.
And at the other end of the scale, I think the biggest barbel I've heard of this year from the Redden District waters, Matt Butler's £15
Yeah,
fall.
I mean, that's a lump. This time of the year,
That's a hell of a fish, isn't it?
that's a lump. That is a lump. I mean, that's probably a 16, 17 pound fish come the end of the season.
Yeah, it's certainly got some growing to do on it.
Yeah.
Looking at it. And of course, in between, we've got some wonderful double figure barbel. And apologies to everyone, we couldn't put every fish in the gallery this month, but certainly a shout out to, once again, Dave Tarrant is catching great fish. And then Jem Fox, who's got 11.2 on the float.
Yeah, I mean, that's
silly.
That's a badge on its own, really, to be fair. And I mean, I have caught barbel on the float, and the biggest I've done is just under £10. And believe me, that's hard work. trying to get one in on that. So, fair play. That's a hell of a catch.
And let's move on to perch, which, I mean, there's been some blinding perch coming out of the Thames this year. At the moment, the Thames sort of seems to have overtaken the Kennet in terms of the really big fish. But, OK, both of these fish came from free water in Reading. We won't say any more than that. So any Reading District member can fish that water. But George Lovell, now his first £4 perch, and Callum Davis, I mean, he's on fire, that kid.
Yeah, that's it.
£4.10.
Yeah, I know. And, old dogs and new tricks and things. I mean, I think the old dogs could actually learn a few new tricks from these youngsters because, they're on fire, the pair of them. It's, fish of a light, they're going to go a long way before they beat those records.
Well, I've caught an awful lot of £3 perch. I'm still waiting for the first £4. So I'm going to have to go fishing with Callum and George.
I think so. Yeah, definitely. Get me an headlock. I think that's the thing. Tell them so they can tell you his secrets.
Well, let's move on to your two river favourites. We've got Rob Walton. I know made you very happy with that grading, eh?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the work that you wouldn't believe the work that goes on behind the scenes, and I could sit here forever and a day going on about what I do.
Please don't.
No, I'll bore you to death. But to see the sort of product of what you've been trying to achieve, it's great. And, anyone that catches a grayling, stick it up, because I love seeing them, and I'm sure other members do. And the roach as well. There are places on the Kennet now where you can actually go and get a bag of roach. And if you're clever about it, there's probably half a dozen, maybe 8 places where you've got a real chance of catching a 2-pounder. So, again, it's one of my little projects that, trying to get some roach back in. Whether it was down to me or not, I don't know. You can never tell. But I'd like to think that it was down to me.
Well, there's certainly quality roach there from the Holy Brook, and that grading, pushed £2 or so from Steel River, shows they're starting to thrive, which is great. So finally, Del, it's up to you to select the October winner. Which one have you chosen?
Yeah, well, this gets difficult every month because, we are seeing a lot of the same faces. We need some new blood, if you like. Get yourself, whenever you catch a fish, hasn't got to be a big fish, just a nice photo and a big smile. And while he's not quite smiling, he's smiling inside, I'm sure. And that's Luke Benjamin.
That's correct.
Yeah, Luke Benjamin. I read your writing then as well. Luke Benjamin, come and get yourself, message us via Facebook, and you can either have a coarse fishing pack or a carp fishing pack from Rod Atchison, and of course a Reading District carp.
And it's nice to see a pike with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, thanks for that, Del, and congratulations to everyone who's had their catches featured, and we look forward to some more great fish next month. I think next month we'll be seeing some big chub.
All right, we will.
Right, fishing prospects with Deputy Fishery Officer Jim Stansfield. Jim, last month, as I recall, you advised us to fish for perch, for barbel and for pike. Well, looking at the pictures that have been submitted, the guys went out there and did it, didn't they?
Yeah, and they've had some cracking fish this month. It's definitely been a good month for it at the moment.
So looking ahead to November, any other suggested species we should be targeting or venues?
It's definitely going to be them same 3 species as well for the minute. And once we start to get this little bit more rain, that river starts to colouring up quite well. These roach are really going to be on the feed, I think. So there's going to be some good roach to be had this month.
And where would you recommend targeting roach? And we've seen that lovely fish from Holy Brook, but other stretches of Kennet that are worth a go?
Yeah, plenty of our stretches of the Kennet. Ufton, again, is a great stretch for it. Lower Benyons, you can have some good bags of silvers down there. And definitely some of the canal stretches. I wouldn't neglect some of the canal stretches. Definitely as we start to get these few colder days, some of those roach like to shoal up into these canal stretches, and if you can find them, you can have a great day.
And as it gets colder, obviously we start thinking about chub. Where would you recommend targeting chub on the Reading District ticket?
Well, from last season, I'd say one of our top bets is going to be Wallingford this year. There was some great chub showing up there, lots of 6-pounders last year, and the fish were in absolutely beautiful condition. So I think they're only going to get bigger and better this year. Kennet, again, you've got lots of places to go. Lower Benyons, Upper Benyons. Feel River's worth a good shout as well. Feel River has a bit of sort of canalised river. As Lower Benyons starts to really start pushing. I think a few of them fish sometimes drop out into the top of Feel River. It's a little bit of a walk to get up there, but get on your toes, travel light, and it's worth a go.
And what about the beats? I mean, Beat 3's obviously done some big chub, and Beat 2, I think, threw up a few big ones last year, didn't they?
Yeah, it definitely did. Yeah. Again, you want to be sort of not travelling too heavy. Make sure you're fishing light. These chub, when it gets cold, the chub are going to be shoaling up, and there's going to be groups of fish. So if you're not getting a bite for a couple of hours or so, don't be sitting there just expecting it to happen. Get out there and find them.
And I think one last thing in terms of the Thames, which is obviously a pretty heavily managed waterway. Once we get that first flood come through, and as far as I'm concerned, it can't come quick enough. The one thing I would say, and I don't know if you agree, is to wait till that water's gone from that kind of slightly brown tea colour to that lovely kind of olive green colour. Yeah. And once it goes green, doesn't matter how cold it is, that's chub time, isn't it?
Yeah, they will be on the feed, Yeah, all sorts of methods you can catch chub on. There's been a lot of guys actually lure fishing for chub recently, but definitely bread and cheese through the winter months, you'll be catching a few chub.
Well, we hope you're right. We'll find out in 4 weeks' time.
Yeah,
Thanks very much,
we'll
Jim.
see.
Thanks very much. Right then, that's it for this month. I hope you've enjoyed that. There's certainly some wonderful fish to be caught. We're into almost winter proper now. The clocks have gone back. Nights have certainly drawn in. But as you see, there's some great fish out there to be caught. Have a good time on the riverbank and on the lakeside if that's your thing. And tight lines, everyone.